There we go. This is why I always do audio checks before I start getting into this too much, because invariably I manage to mess something up. Grade A tech team right here. Thanks for joining, everybody. If you're on YouTube, be super cool if you could say hi to the Twitch viewers, and if you're on Twitch, it'd be super cool if you could say hi to YouTube viewers. It's kind of neat that we can do this at the same time. Got a few announcements. This is shaping up to be a little bit of a longer stream because I have a few things I want to talk about. Obviously, the big one is all the Warhammer Fest reveals and announcements from the weekend and what's going on there. And then in addition to that, brain just locked up. Just a few other things that we have going on. So let's start with the coolest one, July 1st. Is that a Saturday? Let's look and see if that's a Saturday. I think that's the Saturday. And I already made the event, so I hope that's right. Yeah, July 1st. I am going to be running and organizing a big apocalypse game that will be in Chesterton at Reliquary Gaming. Again, big shout out to Brandon and Christy at Reliquary and the whole community. They have been very welcoming and very awesome and supportive, and really just get behind any kind of event or idea that I have. They're super into it. They're just like, hell yeah, let's do it. So I appreciate that. That Apocalypse event is a fundraiser. It will be raising money for Military Gaming Command. Like I said, that is a veteran focused and veteran based nonprofit organization. They use gaming to help support injured veterans, those suffering with PTSD and even physical injuries. And it's about building a good veteran shared community. Again, it's something that's very near and dear to me as I am a veteran myself and have, kind of struggled being not a veteran, moving from the army to civilianhood has been a wild ride for me that's had a lot of ups and downs. So that's going to be on the 1st of July. And then let's double check that calendar because I've got my first, I believe the 22nd. I'll have to double check that. But I believe it was the 22nd is a 2,000 point tournament. It'll be my first 10th edition tournament of the season or of the year. So that'll be going on in Plymouth at Got Game, and then I'll be scheduling more events for the rest of the year here. After I get back from my vacation, I'll be on vacation for a couple weeks coming up here. So you won't see me for 2 weeks unless I can sneak in and do some streaming. But I don't think the old lady's going to be super thrilled with that if I do. So outside of that, um, did a team event over at a store called Slice and Dice in South Bend. That was kind of neat. Very similar, and it's funny. It's very similar to the team event that I ran this past year, where I had everybody had to have a shared faction keyword, etc., etc. And when I talked to Spencer, I was like, "Oh man, I ran an event similar to this," and he was like, "Hey, yeah, actually, I was looking through your tournament pack, saw that, and thought, hey, that's a really cool idea," and then just changed it and tweaked it, and I was like, "Hell yeah, that's why I have this tournament packet." So I'm really happy to see that my tournament packets are reaching people. They are liking what I'm doing, and I'm all about it. Take what I've done, build on it, make it yours, make it better. You know, if you need help, ask for feedback. But that's why I have these things, is that so we can all grow and build and learn from everything. So that's why I try to collate all my data into one source and then share it with the community. I'm not trying to gatekeep at all. I just want everybody to be able to run events and have fun. And that's why everything I do, I just share as freely as I can. So that was pretty neat. I went with Austin and Zach, and I took Drukari. Zach took his Space Wolves, and Austin took his Craft Worlds, and we managed to come in first place. So I'm really, really happy with that. Really proud of those guys. The way the scoring was done was every round they took the average of your whole team's scores, and then let's see, they took the average of the whole team's scores, and then they added up each round, and whoever had the most won. And like we were in second place going into round 3, hit the first place team and managed to, oh man, it was like the average victory points difference was only 2, I think it was. I think we had 84 and they had 82, and it actually helped us beat them by a singular point. So it was a pretty good event with a lot of decent competition, a lot of good players. I had fun, busted the Drukari out, like I said, so that was kind of neat. Spencer did a great job running it. There were some things that were a little different about it, but I understand what was going on there. And, you know, like I said, it was very, very well run. He did a good job, and I have no complaints. Glad to see people out there that are not afraid to deviate from the standard 2,000 point tournament. This is what we're doing. So it was cool. It was very cool. And then, let's see, anything else 40K related? We did finalize our league finally. I ended up coming in second place to the ever handsome and awesome war boss John Anto. Uh, he beat the brakes off of me in that last round. I made some crucial mistakes, and he is a very good player, so he was able to capitalize on them. And so I made some mistakes. He capitalized on them, and going into that matchup, I was I was not I was at a disadvantage. It was, I think, Tide of Conviction, which is a control 2. And anytime I play against orcs on a control 2 with elves, I don't have a ton of confidence going into it. And really, I just played it poorly. And like I said, he's a very good player, and he was able to capitalize on the mistakes that I made. Um, I think Zach came in third. Um, one of the guys in another team that's local to us, Bo, was in the top 5, I believe. I'd have to pull up the placings to double check, but everybody did well. And again, it was a very very good league with some strong competition, so that was pretty cool. And I think we started with like 18 or 20. By the end, we had some drops. We finished with 14. It is what it is. Like that's just gonna happen. But again, super fun. I will be running another league in the summer, fall. I don't know when yet. And that's yeah, that's it. That'll cover the 40K news. Let's see. Health and wellness. Everybody knows I've been kind of on this little journey where I'm trying to get right, and I've lost 5 pounds in the last couple weeks, which has been cool. And really, the biggest change has just been I drink a lot less beer. That's the main thing. Those always been kind of like my vice or my weakness, and so I'm just trying to move away from that. I tried to stop drinking early this year and struggled with it, but I'm mentally in a much better place now, and it has been a lot easier over the last couple weeks, so that's pretty cool. I know everybody's probably anxious to dig into this, but I got a couple other things I want to touch on. Let's see, what else was it? There was one other thing, and I don't have my notes in front of me. Um, what did we talk about? We talked about that league, the tournament that we just did. Maybe not. Maybe we're ready to rock and roll. I did pick up some handsome trees. I've already started painting them. This stupid thing is one of my favorite models. That's another question I do have for the community. I don't play Sigmar. I generally don't like Sigmar, but every year I try to give it another chance because it's a me thing. Because the game's very well written. It is. But like my brain has this block when it comes to the way the game plays because I just don't like how Mortal Wounds interact. But every year I try to go into it, and every year I try to go into it with a better attitude. So I may end up playing those. But if I do, would anybody be interested in some Sigmar content? Get them games by hell yeah, dude. Getting swolled up again. That's actually the big thing. I also really don't lift a ton of weights anymore. I've started doing a lot more calisthenics, and that's mostly because I just hate gyms. Um, gosh, I, I when I had my store, I had my own private gym in my building, and I loved that. I lifted weights every day. But now that I have to go like be in a public gym, God, it is the actual worst. Like I just want to hang myself from the ceiling fans of the gym. It is terrible. I absolutely hate it, and it's mostly because I don't like having to share my gym equipment with people, right? I just want to go in and do my workout and get out, and I don't like having to wait. And again, it's just the nature of a gym. I just don't like it. So I've just decided that I'm going to focus on kettlebells and cardio and calisthenics. And really, it's been awesome. I like it. I like it a lot. I forgot how much I enjoyed those types of workouts. But I might stop being a little thick. Like I'll lose some of the thickness, I think, if I keep this up. But yeah, well. All right. I know everybody's eager. Let's dive into some of this. We'll probably have a few more announcements towards the end. Like I said, this is probably going to be a long one. Captain Too Tall out there, appreciate you on the chat. Make sure you say hi to the Twitch chatters. I know you can't see them, but I'll let them know. All right, so let's see what we got here. We're going to scroll. Boop, 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 boop. New 40K Gambits and missions. Let's actually start back a little bit because I do want to kind of talk about that too. And I know it's not technically a Warhammer Fest, but let's start there. Spoiler, yeah, nobody cares about that. What happened when Dark Angels fought Vashtor? The Dark Angels won. Big shock. So I did want to kind of go over this. Gambits and missions. Here's how you win new game or games of new 40K. Hashtag new 40K because we're trying to be hip and cool. Mustering an army with the biggest guns and the sharpest swords and roomiest transports for the upcoming edition was all well and good, but all the firepower and fighting prowess in the galaxy is no good if you don't complete your mission. Yeah. Okay. These objectives are scattered across a battlefield of 44 by 60 and 44 by 90, so the game's board size didn't really change. I don't know about Onslaught. I like Onslaught games. They're actually a lot of fun. With both players deployed on short edges, it's the perfect theater for drilling battle. So this is the only war. Deployed on short edges. I assume that is... Yeah, boop. That's what I thought it was. So that should be that deployment zone. And then 2 players fight for control of 4 objective markers, which have taken it in turns to place. So this sounds a lot like the Tempest of War or even the Maelstrom cards, right? Where you just alternate placing objectives on the table. There's probably going to be rules regarding them. Like one will probably have to be in your deployment zone. One will probably have to be in no man's land. They'll probably have to be 6 inches away from table edges, 9 inches away from other objective markers, etc., etc. And those are guesses. I'm not saying that's how it is. I don't know. Those are guesses. But something similar to those is usually how these run. The new edition features chapter approved mission system, an evolution of both the popular Tempest of War cards, there we go, and the Grand Tournament mission packs, allowing you to quickly generate balanced and varied missions for every game. So, it's flexible enough to generate from a casual pickup game to the mission framework for top tier tournament to blah 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 blah. Okay. There are 2 different ways to pick your secondary missions. Fixed secondaries will feel more familiar to the GT format, and tactical secondaries are more akin to tech. Okay. So, we've got, I'm assuming, a deployment card. We've got a mission rule, which I am guessing is going to be like some sort of extra rule for the mission, like night mission. You can't see outside of 18 inches, stuff like that. Primary mission, which will explain how your primary objectives are scored, I'm guessing. Secondary missions, and then gambits. Blah 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 blah. So here's a mission rule, because I haven't had a chance to really dive into this yet, so I wanted to do this with everybody. So your primary mission rule, I don't know if everybody can see it. We'll zoom in a little bit. Boop boop. There we go. In this mission, if a player controls an objective marker at the end of the command phase, that objective marker. Okay, so that it's like sweep and clear just gives you sticky objectives, and that would be an example of a mission rule. Cool. And then take and hold. At the end of each command phase, you score 5 victory. And then, yep, exactly. This just explains to you how you score your points. A secondary mission for an attacker. At the end of your turn, if you control one or more objective markers in your opponent's deployment zone, this secondary mission is achieved and you score a victory point. So this is exactly like Tempest of War. If you haven't played Tempest of War, it's a fantastic way to play the game. I've only gotten to play it a handful of times, but every game feels different, and that's what I like. Um, playing as much competitive 40K as I have in the last couple years, the game gets very stale, especially when GW doesn't do anything to kind of shake up missions or change up missions. So for the last year to 18 months, the GTs haven't changed a ton, so it's effectively been the same 9 missions for a year, maybe 18 months. I don't remember the other GT before that. There were some slight tweaks to secondary objectives, but for the most part, the primary missions were all just the same. And then a defender might get, while it's active, each time an enemy unit that started the turn within range of an objective marker is destroyed, you score 3 to a maximum of 5. They're scored even if such unit is destroyed and then resurrected. Okay, that's cool. So, like, if you kill, what is it, Celestine on the objective, for example, and then she revives, you still score. And then we've got Gambit cards. Gambit cards are kind of weird. So like, and I'm assuming there's more than just this one, right? We assume that there's a few. You'll have some options. If you select this Gambit card, you have chosen not to attempt a Gambit. Until the end of the battle, you continue to score victory points for your primary mission. So you can opt to not take a Gambit. And then for an example Gambit, we have at the end of your 5th turn, if one or more units from your army that are not battle shocked are wholly within 9 inches of a corner of a battlefield, and those units are not within your own deployment zone, roll 2d6. Add 1 to the result for every other corner of the battlefield that has one or more of your units from your army wholly within 9 inches of it. Excluding battle shocked units or units within engagement range of enemy units. If the final result is 12 or more, the gambit is successfully completed and you score 30 victory points. So I'm kind of mixed on this. Like this specific gambit, not all gambits. It's weird, and I guess you could do that and just plan to not play primaries and just change the way you play the game. I'd have to see how primaries shake out, but the fact that it's all or nothing and you have to roll a die to score your points, uh, I mean, I know people that would do it. Like my buddy Austin would do it almost every game, hands down, because that's just how he plays the game. But me personally, I'm generally going to take what's going to give me the more consistent points, but I appreciate what's going on here. And again, for like a one-off silly game, I might do it, but at an event where I'm not necessarily trying to win at all costs, but the goal is to win the game, I'm probably not taking this gambit. And the fact that I could theoretically just shut you out of the gambit, right? That's some big balls moves right there. Now, it really depends on how this works. Gambits are hard to pull off. They represent a desperate Hail Mary attempt to pull things back from the brink. However, they do ensure that a player who has fallen behind still has a meaningful long shot at winning even. Uh, so it's interesting because this doesn't say anything about not scoring primaries, but this one does say that you score primaries as normal. So there's an insinuation here that the gambit hampers or inhibits your ability to score primaries. We don't know because it doesn't say unless it says up here. Let's look. Primary mission not going as planned. There's still hope, but during Gambit. At the end of the 3rd battle round, either or both players may choose a Gambit card chosen in secret from the 2 identical decks. Once a player reveals a Gambit, their original goal is thrown completely out the window, replacing. Okay, so you can score primaries. When do you reveal it? at the end. So you can still score primaries for 2 rounds. You can score primaries for second and third. So that's actually really interesting. What's a player? Their original goal is completely thrown out of the window, replacing their primary mission with a completely fresh and challenging new mission objective. They keep all victory points and secondary missions, but no longer score. Instead, they must pursue their gambit to the bitter end. So that's interesting. Again, this is kind of vague. So I don't know if you only stop scoring primaries, which again I assume is going to be the deal because of the way that one gambit card is. But the way this sentence is worded is just you just don't score points, right? Because you keep victory points and secondary missions, but no longer score. Oh, but can longer score. What? They really need a better editor. So they keep all existing victory points and secondary missions, but can longer score, which doesn't make sense. But again, whatever. I don't know what the insinuation is here now because I've read this 5 times and it's just hurting my brain. But it makes it sound like I assume no longer score is the word that's missing. It makes it sound like you just don't score points. You just get your gambit and that's it. But I don't know. This set includes 3 different gambits, which is okay. So again, knowing that, because I haven't had a chance to read through this, knowing that you get to decide on your gambit turn 3, so you get to see how the game's going, that's interesting. And what's really funny is that, like, not to be a dirtbag, but like if you're just dominating somebody on primaries and you get 30 points, because the one thing said you score 5. If you get 30 points in primaries turn 2 and 3, and then you could just be like, all right, I'm going to stop scoring primaries and I'm just going to go for the gambit. Like, it's kind of dumb, but at the same time, like, a good example would be, man, and again, it depends. Do we cap on primaries? Does the gambit count towards the cap on primaries, or can we actually get over 100 points now? Like, there's a lot of things, but a good example was Saturday, played the super nice kid. Unfortunately, he'd never played against Drukari before. And I tried to be as forthcoming with people as possible, right? And I try to tell them everything. And I just looked at him and I was like, dude, I'm sorry. And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, if you've not played against them before, they can be a lot to handle and a little overwhelming if the person who's using them knows how to play with them. And he was like, okay, you know, and turn 1, he had slammed a unit of his Harlequin bikes into what I gave him a unit of Hellions to charge. It's one of those where I positioned him in a way where I figured he was going to charge him because he took effectively the Harlequin secondary where he wants to get my deployment zone. He made the charge. My succubus just went in and pieced up the whole squad, and he was just like, what the hell? And then she danced back behind the terrain feature by a bunch of racks. And so, like, then turn 2 came, and I had grotesques in his deployment zone turn 2, and he was just like, what is happening right now? And I was like, yeah, no, like I said, I'm very sorry. This is one of those where I can tell you all day long how killy they are and how fast they are, but it's not going to matter until you actually see it. And the point behind that story is that he scored 0 points in our primaries the whole game, and I capped primaries every turn. So the idea that like I could just be a big piece of shit and just be like, all right, I'll take my 30 points in primaries and then try to get 30 more for a gambit and just get 60 points and just cap secondaries. But again, it just depends on how it interacts. We don't know. We don't have the full context of the rules yet. Um, and once we have it, we can kind of see. I'm assuming that there's going to be some limitations on how many points you can score, etc. So that was the big mission one. It's interesting. I like Tempest of War. I don't know that I like For a competitive game, it's going to be weird, right? Going to a tournament and having a gambit where it's just like, okay, I just get to roll 2 dice, and if I roll the magic number, I win, right? That's going to be weird. And I get why it exists, but in my experience, unless something's changed drastically about the game, excuse me, most games, if I'm in a point where I'm like, I'm going to throw this Hail Mary to get 30 victory points, those 30 victory points probably aren't going to matter. And I could be wrong. And again, we don't know because we don't know the full context of the game. Once the whole rules drop, it may be like, oh, okay, this is how scoring's going to work. My hope is that they make scoring a little harder, simply because getting 90, 100 point games should feel special. It should not just be like the norm. So that was that. Wanted to go over that. There are some cool things in here. I like the Tempest of War style stuff, and that's a thing I've even considered doing simply for tournaments. Um, let's see, gambits and missions. Here's what's new in 40K. We talked about that. We don't need to do the live blog and stream. What's in the box? I can't read those words without thinking of 7. Sorry. So this thing, man, the box is absolutely stacked. And it's, I think, all new models. I could be wrong, but I think this is. I just wrote a brief article on this, actually. I said in the article I was going to talk about it today, so here we are. You get a rule book, you get some cards. I assume it's the mission cards. Yep, Leviathan mission deck and a construction booklet. I don't know what the hell that is. You get 25 Marines, 47 NIDs, blah, 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 blah. Rule book, mission deck, transfer sheet. So in case you didn't have enough options, right? Like, I know the Space Marine Codex is very skimpy, and they just don't have enough data sheets. Here's some new data sheets for you guys. Not that he's a new data sheet, he's just a new sculpt for an existing one. I do enjoy that I still have metal miniatures and resin miniatures in the 2 armies that I play. And yet, like, every year we're just getting more and more new Marines. Love it. Absolutely love it. Um, Super cool sculpt. I do like it. All jokes aside, this little homie down here is having a bad day. So you get your new Captain and Terminator armor. You get your Librarian and Terminator armor. I will say that these poses are almost identical. Uh, they're close enough. And to me, the paint is what sells this model. Whoever painted this deserves a raise and some recognition because that is fantastic. I'm not a great painter, and I am the first to admit it. And I can appreciate the amount of time and effort that went into this to making it pop. Making miniatures that stand out in photographs is not easy, and the painter who did this did a phenomenal job. And hey, you got like 5 different apothecaries, but guess what, guys? You get another apothecary, so that's cool. I forget what he does. Let's see. Understanding samples of biomatter with his vivispectrum, turning his foes' biology against them. I'm not even going to speculate what that means. No clue. And I absolutely appreciate and love that we got another Primaris Lieutenant. And at this point, GW's in on the joke, and they just do it. And I appreciate that. Again, super cool model. It is a good mini. I do like it a lot. We've got some Sternguard vets. I want to say those are just like Primaris veterans. Let me see. Let's look that one up. I could be wrong. I'm not like an expert on my Marine units. They're all just power armor to me. Yep, Stern Guard Veteran Squad. Are these even Primaris? So they're not Primaris right now, but those definitely look like Primaris models to me. So this might just be making the old Firstborn Stern Guards Primaris. And I know Primaris keyword and stuff doesn't seem to exist, and that's not the point. Um, but it looks like they're just making new models for the Stern Guard so that the Stern Guard are just Primaris. Now that doesn't mean they won't have the old ones. But yeah, I thought that was just a new kit for an existing thing, and it's just it's like a shooty version of the Vanguard veterans. So they've got a lot of different gun options as opposed to a different melee options. That's all they are. Is cool. I can get down with the sickness. Terminator Squad. We already saw these. We saw their data sheets. Again, they're cool. They're Terminators. There's nothing for me to say about them, just because we've already seen it. But again, these are all new sculpts, which is really cool. I do like that. The Infernus Squad. I mean, it's just a bunch of dudes with flamers, which again, cool. They do have a special rule where, like, I forget how it's worded, but if they hit you, you have to take a battle shock test. I'm a little mixed on that because I think oh, I'm probably not supposed to say this. There was a human being, and I'm going to try to word this as vaguely as possible. There was a human being who was in a group that I'm also a part of on a certain social media site. And again, I'm just trying to be as vague as possible because as a GW employee, I have to be very careful about how I say things and how I word things. Um, they had said that they got to play the preview at Warhammer Fest, and one of the things that they had learned, and this is all rumor, this is not fact. This is rumor, and I am not saying it's true. I'm saying this is something I had heard, and I am in no way saying it's true or that I know, because I don't. But the rumor is that the new Screamer Killer's uh, spitty weapon, the Scream, also causes battle shock tests. I will say that based off of that, if this is just going to be a mechanic that is getting spammed in every army, or like a lot of units have it, we have now just like, why? And again, I know it's only 2 units so far. One of them's confirmed, one of them is not. Um, I just, why? Why are we doing this? Like, the leadership mechanics were already bad. I like where they went. Please don't make it to where it can just get abused and make it bad again. Like, start slow and then tweak things. But anyway, they're cool models, man. I like the Flamers. I'm sure my buddy Tyler's going to get some for his Black Templars, because they've got or did have some neat interactions with Flamers. And then another Dreadnought. There's got to be about 30 of those in the Marine Codex at this point. Uh, I do appreciate this. I don't know. I don't know. We were in Discord talking about this, and one of my buddies was just like, "This is just the Space Marine equivalent of a mom tattoo." you know, I'm with it though. Again, it is a cool model. I like teasing Marine players, and I like kind of making jokes about Marines, for a lot of reasons. But all jokes aside, it is a super cool model, and I'm glad to see it. Like, this is an awesome model, and I'm glad to see somebody getting cool models, even if it's always just Marines. Let's dump. Let's see. We got some new pictures. I just want to see if they talked about the data sheets in here at all. I don't think so. Yeah, excuse me. Here's the Infernus squad. I thought something had one, so let's zoom it in. So they move 6 inches. Their toughness 4. They've got a 3+ save, 2 wounds, 6 leadership. So this seems pretty standard, right? Like this, none of this surprises me. Their OC is 1, and I assume that's because they're not troops. I think troops are going to have an higher OC count, is what we're looking at, is the thought process. Bolt pistol. 12-inch range, 1 attack, 3 plus, strength 4, AP 0, 1 damage, and then the Pyre Blaster is D6, 12 inches, strength 5, 0 AP, 1 damage. So I do like that there's no rend on any of this so far. Ignores cover. I don't think we've seen ignores cover yet. I'm curious to know how that works because that is a USR, and so I'm curious to know how that works. I'm wondering if it's going to just give you an additional pip of AP, kind of like the vantage point, or if it's you just can't. Like, I'm curious to see how it's worded. That's all. Purge the foe. In your shooting phase, after this unit has shot, you can select one enemy infantry unit hit by one or more of those attacks made with a Pyre Blaster. That unit must make a battle shock test. So the fact that it says one or more, so Torrent, right, is a kill team rule. Boop, 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 boop. Let's see. And here's how Torrent works. Each time a friendly operative performs a shoot action or overwatch action and selects this weapon, after making the shooting attack against the target, it can make a shooting attack with this weapon against each other valid target, within X inches of the original target. So it's basically just splash damage. And I'm curious to see if that's how Torrent is going to work. Is like when the unit shoots, it gets to make like a D6 extra shots against another unit within 3. And again, I don't know. Please don't tell everybody that you heard it here first that I said this and that's the God's honest truth because I don't know. It's just one of those where I'm kind of speculating and I'm not supposed to and I shouldn't, but I am. Because this is a rule that already exists, I'm kind of assuming it's going to interact similarly. That could be interesting. And again, the battle shock test, I'm not opposed to it as long as it's not like getting spammed, right? If every army has like 1 or 2 units that can do this, awesome. And then maybe certain armies can do it a lot, like Night Lords, because they have a lot of these kind of leadership mechanic interactions. Like, I'm not opposed to that. But if it's just going to be like, ah, gosh, everything can do it, all right, I guess we're just not controlling objectives. The Ballistus Dreadnought. Okay, we do have this. So this handsome dude is 8 inches movement, T8, so he's a Redemptor style Dreadnought, which I think we already kind of assumed just from his looks. He's T8, or T10, I mean. And again, I have no context for T10, so I don't know. It's interesting that they have a 2-up save, but they don't seem to reduce damage anymore, and I think that's the trade-off. And I could be wrong, again, but this is what it's looking like. 12 wounds, and so there's a few things I like in here. The 2-up save is interesting. Again, there's no damage reduction, so that means like if you hit it with a Melta, it's going to take damage. The downside is that you're wounding it with a 5 on a Melta, right? 12 wounds, leadership 6, OC 4. And so the OC 4 is cool. Like the fact that dreadnoughts can control objectives is pretty cool and actually like hold them. Like I can't just walk up with one dude and just be like, "Ha, this is mine." So that's cool, right? We've got what 12 wounds, 6 up leadership, 2 plus save, toughness 10. We went through all that. Now, he's got a ballistic missile launcher, which is just like a double missile launcher, is what it looks like, right? So it does 2d6 with blast. So in that same discussion with that same unnamed person, the word on the street is that blast just gives you a bonus number of shots based on how many models are in the squad. So rather than a minimum of 3, right? It's just +1 shot for every 5 models, for example. I'm not saying that he said that's what it was. I'm just saying that that could be an example. And so again, I'm mixed on that. I hope there's a cap on how many bonus shots you get, because again, as an orc player, I don't want to continue to be punished for playing my army the way it was intended or supposed to be played, right? If I want to bring 30 boys, I don't want this thing to be able to get 18 shots into my boys. Because, if we use that example that I just gave, that's hypothetical, uh, you divide it by 5, that's 6. So that's 2d6 plus 6 shots. Again, I don't want to continue. I've already been punished this past edition very hard for running my army the way it was supposed to be run. And if Blast doesn't have any kind of cap, I'm just never going to run any kind of big units of boys because, again, I'm just getting punished. If you bring a blast weapon and you can just here's all my shots, get fucked. Cool, man. I'm just not going to bring them then. Tyranids are going to have that same kind of interaction. So you've got some armies out there that were supposed to be run a specific way, or not supposed to be, but like they're traditionally hordy armies, and they're just being shoehorned into playing the elite game. And I don't want that to continue. But we don't know. Again, we don't know. There's no confirmation on what Blast does yet. It does have a ballistic missile launcher. It's Crack. The Crack is strength 10. So the big thing with Crack missiles is that they just went up 2 strength, and they kept their D6 damage. So that was interesting. And then the las cannon is strength 12 now. So you do have some anti-vehicle weapons that are very good at being anti-vehicle weapons. It's curious to me that the Melta stayed strength 8, at least on the data sheet that they showed. But who knows? D6 plus 1, Storm Bolters, the Rapid Fire 2, Twin Linked. I don't think we've seen what Rapid Fire does, but I think there's a general assumption on how it works. And then Twin Linked, I believe, lets you re-roll your wound rolls of 1. I could be wrong on that. We looked at it once already. And then, so instead of not having a melee profile and you just use your base strength, everything's going to get a melee profile. Armored Feet, melee, strength 5 or strength 7. It does get 5 attacks. But I think Shock Assault is gone, would be my assumption, because it looks like this has got more attacks now. And then when it makes a ranged attack against a unit that is not below half strength, you can reroll the hit roll. Haha, yay! So glad hit rolls or rerolls are getting, toned down. Oh, wait. And then 1 to 4 wounds remaining each time this model attacks. Subtract 1 from the hit roll. So instead of like weird brackets that we have now, I think we're going to see a lot of this also. Honestly, again, solid data sheet. I have nothing against it. I think it's a very good unit. Of course, it's a very good unit. It's a new model. But the one thing I will say is that, like, remember what I said about double speak in Games Workshop? This is a perfect example of double speak in Games Workshop. We're going to be toning down rerolls. Well, here's a unit that just rerolls its own hit rolls. Sure, man. All right, so now let's look at the stinky bugs. Get your can of raid out. This is the Winged Tyranid Prime. I'm glad they got this. They should have had this. He's super cool. This is a fantastic model. I don't particularly care for a lot of the Tyranid aesthetics, but I can appreciate that this is just a cool model. I will say that I fucking hate this thing. Not because it's an ugly model. Yeah, for sure. And that's it, man. And the rules, I joke, and I do jokingly complain about the rules, but really my biggest complaint is just the double speak. Like, we're gonna do this, maybe, kind of, but then we get this. And no, I don't hate this model because I think it's ugly. It's just disgusting. Like, it just looks gross to me. Um, again, I appreciate it. It's a very good sculpt, but I find it putrid. It's a neuro tyrant. Blah 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 blah. A psychic phenomenon that blocks warp-based communications. Focusing for the strange power. Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's visually upsetting. Right. Absolutely. And there are a few models that are like that where it's like it is a wonderful sculpt, but it just like I want it burned from my eyes. This thing, first of all, I this is an incredible model, and I really appreciate the throwback to the original Screamer Killer models, right? Images. Right, let's open image, a new tab. Close that out. So like it's not perfect, but man, like they did a great job. Yes. Yes. And I do. I hope I'm a Drukari player, but I have Craft World player friends, and I hope the Craft Worlds get like they still got. I think it's I don't remember if they're resin or metal, but like they're striking scorpions. Man, absurd that they're still that old. But no, they did a great job of this. Like there's a lot of good inspiration here, and it's phenomenal. Whoop. And then Von Ryan's Leapers, which are just some kind of Death Leaper thing. I don't know anything about them. I'm sure Tyler could tell me all about them. Again, super cool models. And then the new Termagants, which we'd already seen. Neurogants, or Neurogaunts. They're a variant strain of Gaunt that share a symbiotic relationship with the parasite neurocytes that cling to their backs. The primary purpose is to protect the powerful synapse creatures that coordinate, turn in, and they will sacrifice themselves. Interesting. I'm not gonna speculate here, but there's some insinuations in here on how they interact. Maybe like a shield drone or like a ignore or like a bodyguard. But again, I'm not speculating, even though I did. Barb Gaunts. I don't even understand what I'm looking at right now. What is this? I don't. Yeah, is that a gun? I think that's maybe some kind of gun. Yep, it's a biocannon and a ganglio parasite that enslaves the two. Gaunt, biocannon, and a ganglio. Barb gaunts are living ordnance that shower targets with projectiles that explode into shards of serrated chitin. And then the psychophage. Yeah. So I've seen all the people complaining that this is just a reskinned Venom crawler. Who cares? It's kind of cool. I'm not a Tyranid player. I don't generally get into the whole bug aesthetic. Like this thing just looks like a friggin' testicle with a mouth. Like it's not my jam, right? Like, oh man, I played a Tyranids player at that tournament I just went to, and dude was he knew I wasn't being mean, but he was just like, oh come on, man. Because I was like, I don't know, I'm shooting at these things. He's like, which things? I don't know which these things are. And I'm like, I don't know, the ball bugs, whatever they are. They were the zoanthropes, but I couldn't think of their name. And I'm like, the floating nuts. And he was just like, come on, man. I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't know what they're called. And he wasn't mad or rude about it or anything. It was just one of those where couldn't think of it. So let's see if there's some data sheet action on here. Because again, this is my first dive into this. So this is all new to me. Yeah, let's look at this Screamer Killer. Big old handsome boy. Oh, it is confirmed. Cool. So what the dude had said is already confirmed. So he's got some bioplasmic scream. It's assault and blast. It's 18 inches, D6 plus 3. So again, I know the blast is unconfirmed, but this is one of those situations where I hope that there's some sort of cap on it, right? Because the rumor is that it just adds one for every 5 models in the squad. So again, if I'm running 30 boys, he's this thing would get a D6 plus 9. Like, why? Why are you punishing me for playing my army the way it should be played? Right? But anyway, it's 18 inches, D6 plus 3, hits on 4, strength 8, neg 2, 1 damage, which I think this is drastically toned down. Let's look. Strength 8, neg 4, 1 damage. Ballistic skill 4. So the AP is way down on that. And then it does have Screamer Killer Talons. It gets 10 attacks. At first, when I saw this, I was like, that's absurd. And then I realized that's about what they get right now. Like, it's not really any different. Because they have like a base of like 6 attacks, and then they get 1 bonus attack for every Talon they get, I think is how it works out. So it's about the same. Hits on 3, strength 10, neg 2, 3 damage. So again, pretty solid. Not going to be great into a Dreadnought, which is interesting because they just have a 2-up base save. But with 10 attacks, you'll definitely do damage. Oh, and Deadly Demise is just it explodes, and I think this is just how many mortal wounds it does. And it might not even be mortal wounds anymore. I'd have to look, because I think that already got covered. Faction Synapse, Death Scream. Yep, okay, in your shooting maze. Battle Shock, we talked about that already. Oh, God, get it the fuck away from me. I hate that thing. Sorry for the language, too. The Winged Tyranid Prime. Do we have a data sheet here? No. Von Ryan's Leapers. No. Termagants. No. Barbgants. And we've already seen the Termagant data sheets. So we only get the 1 data sheet for NIDS. Kind of sad. What else is in the box? What's in the... I'm sorry. I can't not do it. Let's see. Is there anything in here? I don't think so. I think this is just... Yeah. All right. So let's jump back. So we did that. What else is mission cards, crusade rules, and a big old book? I don't think we need to cover that. The lore of Leviathan. I'm not going to go over lore. It's just not my thing. Yeah, no, they're gross, man. What's in the box? Yeah, no, the bugs are gross. There's a few of them I don't mind. Like, I think Carnifexes are kind of cool looking. And some of the bigger ones, like the Swarm Lord's kind of a neat one. And gosh, what's the other dude? The Not the Moloch, although the Moloch is same box. It's whatever comes in the same box as the Moloch. And I can't think of what it's called. But like those bigger ones don't bother me so much. Like some of them are actually kind of cool. Like the Swarm Lord's actually kind of cool looking. But generally speaking, aesthetically, I'm just like, you're disgusting and I hate you. Let's see what this one is. That's a lot of bugs. He just left with bugs. Oh, is this literally what we just scrolled through? Oh, okay. Cool. Pre-order now, pre-order now. New 40K. Let's jump over here and see if there's anything we missed. Because again, I'm not going through the lore. Gambits and missions. So let's so and I'm not putting down people who love the lore of this game, right? And there's aspects of it that I enjoy. Like there are. But I've tried to read some of the Black Library books and they are so hit and miss in quality and content. And when I first started playing, I don't know if there were any novels out. And even if there were, there might have only been like a handful because I'm kind of old, right? And man, it was just it was just a game. The Space Marines hadn't really taken that mantle of protagonist that they have now. And once they kind of assumed that protagonist mantle officially, the lore got even dumber to me, you know, because there's so many things that are just like I have power armor and a name, so nothing can hurt me. Ha ha! And that kind of interaction. And most of the 40K books that I've read the way the Captain America, the first Avenger movie, watches for me. Like, Captain America First Avenger, kind of a shit movie. Sorry if you like it. But from an objective standpoint, it's not a very compelling story. Like, don't get me wrong, it's entertaining. I enjoy watching it on occasion, but in terms of story, it's kind of bad. The first half of the movie is I'm a nerd, I get beat up. And then the second half of the movie is I'm a superhero, I literally can't be hurt. Like, there's no actual resistance or pushback. It's just get your ass kicked and then hit Super Saiyan, right? And then beat ass. There's no actual resistance. I can't think of the word I'm looking for. But there's a specific word my brain is digging for it. It can't find it. But there's no real climax. There's no payoff. It's just like, I'm a super soldier, punch, I win, and so it's just kind of boring. Exactly. And the characters that do have any kind of arc or growth, right? That's true, man. Uh, but if I want to watch Nazis getting punched, I think Inglorious Bastards is a much better way to do it. Yeah, substance. It's not the word I'm looking for, but substance is a great word. It's specifically a word having to do with like that resistance. Um, Damn, why you gotta call me out like that? Lack of orcs. Um, Right. Yeah, no, so for real. And I've read books about orcs, right? And so I read most of the Beast Arises series. And the first book was actually really good because the Marines, they got to fight, they got to do their thing, but like the orcs were intimidating and they were scary and they were written very well. And they just like came in and obliterated almost a whole chapter of Space Marines just through sheer volume and like their crazy teleporta technology. The second book was basically straight ass because it was like I'm in power armor, everything dies at my gaze, and it's that kind of weird back and forth inconsistency that always turns me off about 40K lore. Um, if you want it to be over the top and you want them to be superheroes, then I feel like that's how they should be. But if you want it to be gritty and grimdark, then that's how it should be. It's the inconsistency that's always bothered me about the 40K lore and background. Uh, that and stupid books like Fulgrim, right? That's that dude's name. Uh, what's funny is that like the first 65 to 70% of that book is actually a pretty good book. And Fulgrim actually has character development and a story arc and all these things. Like it has all the pieces of a good story. But it literally hit one point in the book where I just stopped reading it, put it away, and was just like, I'll never finish this book because it just like was so egregiously bad. And it wasn't like the weird poop paintings and the blood paintings and stuff. It wasn't even that. If you haven't read Fulgrim, it's a little weird. um, but it's where and like Luke's probably heard this a few times, but it's where he fights the Avatar of Cain. Uh, it's so bad. Like they come down and they're like smoking all these Eldar and all this other stuff, and then the Eldar like sacrifice themselves to summon the Avatar of Cain, and the Avatar of Cain comes up and they square off and they're getting ready to fight, and the dude literally pulls like a razzle dazzle on him, like it's so dumb. Like this is a god of war, right? Like this is supposed to be a god of war. This this unrelenting killing machine. And Fulgrim basically just points to the sky and is like, "What's that?" And then the Avatar is just like, and is so incredibly ignorant and stupid that it averts its gaze from its opponent, and then Fulgrim punches it in the face one time and its head explodes. And it was just such an anticlimactic and poorly written scene in the book that I just stopped reading it. I instantly stopped reading it and was just like, what was once a good book is now just straight ass, and I'm done with it. But on the flip side of that, I did read Angron's book, and that was actually pretty good. But yeah, so sorry about the whole ah gosh, I digress, right? Sorry about the whole digression on that. We got there. I haven't seen this. Let's look at this real quick. Basically, I've been out of the loop for a few days because I've been prepping for vacation, and like I said, I did that tournament and stuff. So I have no idea what's been coming out, and I wanted to do. I know it's gonna be a longer one, but I wanted to do a video kind of talking about it. The biggest and the best ever edition of Codex Space Marines is up for pre-orders this weekend. What? And now, and how you can even choose your own successor tactics using the new book. For the first time, the new codex includes chapter tactics for all 9 Loyalist first founding chapters, as well as Death Watch and those successors whose renown almost rival that. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so even though the names may be familiar to you, I'm going to have to make sure I send this to Zach, because we were just talking about that. Some of the chapter tactics have undergone subtle changes that really help hit home the character, attitude, and fighting methods of the chapter. Take the Space Wolves. Hunger for glory and ferocity on the counterattack are legend. The new chapter tactic means that now it's not just characters who can make her. Is this old? Yeah, okay. Wow. I was really confused for a minute. Uh, I don't know how we went from April 23 and then a quick scroll took us 3 years back. That really threw me off. Okay. Boop, boop, boop. So I think we kind of covered most of everything. So let's go to all back over here. There were a couple other things I did want to look at. What? Why are you being this way? That aren't 40K related, right? We talked about terrain already. Talked about transports already. Okay, guys, where is this? This should be up here. I am not in articles. Let's go to Age of Sigmar. I did want to look at these. I'm not a Sigmar player. Again, most of the people who like subscribe or know me know I'm not a huge fan of Sigmar. Every year I do give it a try because I keep thinking, oh man, the models are so gorgeous. And the core rules are actually very well written. I just don't enjoy the Mortal Wounds. And every year I give it a try, and I try to like stay open-minded when I give it a try. But then I play that one game against Skaven where they just are like, here's 100 Mortal Wounds in a shooting phase, and I'm just like, fuck this game, right? So I am going to give it a try again this year. And while I've got so many people here interacting with Twitch and with YouTube, if any of you are interested in any kind of AOS content, let me know, because I will start doing that as well. I do want to start branching out into more things besides just 40K. And a lot of you know I'm already writing my own game, which is why I've gotten some Sigmar models, like I already showed you guys my handsome tree, you know, because I'm doing a rank and file fantasy game. And the models are gorgeous. Like, can't argue that. But yeah, if AOS content is something any of you would be interested in, feel free, again, in chat or comment, whatever works for you. The Maw Grunter is a humongous hog who's here to stay. First of all, this model is absolutely amazing. I wish I had some sort of scale reference for it. because I don't know how big it is. But if I were a snake bites player and it's about the size of a beast boss on Squigosaur, that would probably be my beast boss on Squigosaur. Or if I could run it as uh, like a bike dude, right? Like the war boss on bike. There we go. I think it's going to be way too big for that though, but only for competitive play, right? If you're just playing Crusades or fun games, nobody's going to give a shit. But that thing is amazing. It's such a cool model. Like this was one of the things that got released, and I might get one just because I'm basically an orc. Yeah, yeah, all of them. That's the answer. All the shooter boys. And that's the other thing is if it's big enough, it would make an absolutely amazing foundation for a kill rig. You know, if you wanted to kit bash your own kill rig or some sort of like big ass chariot style battle wagon, hell yeah, man. I'm about it. Make shooter boys good. Come on, GW. I don't remember the last time they were even worth putting on the table, but it's been a while. So I didn't want to go over that. And then, bro, this model is also incredible. Uh, and again, I would not make him all nurgly. Like my buddy Austin, he's working with me on our fantasy game. Which when I get back from vacation, I am playtesting, and I'm gonna start having some rules available for other people who want to playtest it. This thing would make a killer like vampire lord or some sort of like zombie lord on Steed. Like this thing is amazing. It does not have to be Nurgle, even though it's all Nurgly. It's incredible. And then what the honk is that? A flesh eater court, so zombie, like a cool zombie model. And again, awesome. Yeah, exactly, man. And so I'm curious to see how Shooter Boys are gonna interact. Um, Interestingly, I've had some list concepts in ninth that are predicated around Shooter Boys, and I think you could make them. I don't want to say good, but at least like serviceable. But they're just not worth it. When you look at what you get out of a Shooter Boy as opposed to just a Choppa Boy, Slugga Boy, like they're just so much better. The bonus attack and the neg 1 AP and melee I'd rather have than having this lame ass DACA gun. I hope I hope DACA either goes away or actually like interacts with the game in a meaningful way. That was one of the things about that codex that really chapped my caboose. But I'm gonna stop now because Jeremy, I'm telling you, buddy, if you get me going, I will rant all day about that codex. Grimhold Exile. Again, super cool model. This dude is definitely all cheeked up and ready for butt bashing. I do enjoy that. The rabble rouser. Hell yeah. And like this is a model I'm gonna get. Like this dude is awesome. Look at him with his little squig flyers. Like, that dude is the shit. Uh and I'll start using things like that for like my little bomb squigs and stuff. I don't care. And then we got, you know, boxes. Boxes and boxes for days. Yeah, so like I said, I may. I am going to. I'm talking to my buddy Kevin about getting back, or at least giving Sigmar a try, because I am building, like I said, a fantasy army for my game, and I'm using AOS models for most of it, so I can just double up. So it's one of those where we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I'll try not to get instantly triggered as soon as somebody's just like, "Here's 70,000 mortal wounds, nerd." Yeah. And then these guys were super cool. Like, I love these models so much. Like, I will probably end up getting myself a box of these two just because, man, are these beautiful. And they're going to be fun to paint. And then there was, these are the old ones. And I think they did a fantastic job of keeping the flavor without, uh, Like just keeping the flavor, right? Sorry, brains. I'm only one coffee into my day, and all I have is water right now. There was another thing I wanted to look at. Is it this? No. They did some old world releases or teases too. Let's see if we can find those. I might have to Google that because I think I had to Google it. I wonder if it's on Forge World. It shouldn't be, right? Articles, Horus Heresy, Warhammer Heroes, Underworld's Warcry. What? Okay, so let's do this. Brett Onion. Is it this one? I think this is it. Alongside many new kits, some of which we previewed last month. Let's check that out. Because I haven't been keeping up with a lot of the old world stuff, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Sorry about the delay. Here we go. Yeah. So we've got some Bretonnian stuff coming out, and again, I love Bretonnians. So when I did play fantasy, I played Wood Elves, I played High Elves, and I had some Bretonnians. And they're basically like those are the three armies you play if you don't like having friends. Not because they're good, just because like Bretonnians are one of those armies where you have to be really good at the game to be good with them. Just like Wood Elves and High Elves, and those tend to be the armies that I gravitate towards, the ones that require a very high skill floor to play. But that's because a lot of those armies are, if you are good with them, you can make them very good. So usually the general consensus is, oh, like these armies are bad, and then you play somebody that knows how to use them, and you're just like, oh Jesus. Drukari interacts in that way. Orcs don't really. Orcs are weird because they're a very straightforward army. There's not a lot of finagling or like deception or rules layering that can go on with that army. Uh, but you do have to know how to play the game to play them, simply because you have to know how to keep your stuff alive. So there's that. But yeah, these were super cool. And again, the resin, which is big sad because I think these are Forge World models, but I'm probably going to get some of those because god dang, are they gorgeous. And they're going to be the same scale, which is awesome. So I may be picking up some of this stuff, right? Like this stuff's incredible. I love the old fantasy stuff. So that being said, I'm I'm really on the fence about the old world. And there's a couple reasons why. I did not enjoy Warhammer Fantasy 8th Edition a whole lot. I know a lot of people who played Fantasy either liked 7th or they liked 8th, but I don't know anybody who really cared for both. But that's because 8th was a big step away from 7th, right? 8th Edition brought in pre-measuring and a few changes to how wizards interacted and stuff like that. Um, and man, I didn't like it. I enjoy, especially for fantasy games, I enjoy not pre-measuring. It makes more sense for me in my head because they didn't have computers and all these digital devices that can tell you. Like 40K pre-measuring, I'm down with. Any kind of modern game pre-measuring, I'm down with. You start going fantasy and pre-measuring, and my brain just like locks up, and I'm just like, that doesn't make sense to me. And that's a me thing. I'll play it. I'm gonna see how it is. I just don't have high expectations for it. That being said, I think we've dug through everything I wanted to now. Um, I appreciate everybody hanging out with me. We got to talk about a lot of cool things. We got to look at some models, talk about some rules, some data sheets. I'm hopeful that I can get my hands. How do I want to word this? I'm hopeful that there's going to be a copy of the 10th Ed rules floating around here pretty soon. I won't be able to really talk about them until they're released simply because of my status as an employee. But I would like to at least be able to read through them and see what we're looking at so I can have more context. And I'd like to see the index because that'll give me a lot of context. Yeah, yeah, man. That is the downside. I love being a GW employee. I really do. But the downside is that, like, I have to be very careful about what I say and who I say it to. And like I've already had my boss tell me, take that video down. Take that video down. This may end up being one of them, simply because of the speculating I did. It is what it is. But again, I appreciate everybody. Again, going to repeat some of the announcements that I had at the beginning. If you're generally local and you want to play an apocalypse game, I am organizing one July 1st in Chesterton at Reliquary Gaming. It is a fundraiser. I will have the rules packet up for that probably around the end of my vacation. It's going to be donation based, determining what you get to bring. And I'm just going to be separating people onto one of two teams as they come in. It's going to be a good time. I look forward to it. I look forward to working with everybody. The last time I ran an APOC game, it was a good time. And it was just a show up and play. We all just drank beer and played 40K all day. And it was amazing. Um, and then I've got a Plymouth tournament coming up. I've got it in BCP. So if you are a tournament player, just look at BCP. It's in there. And I think it's just like Phoenix Gaming 2K Plymouth Tournament or something. I try to name them so that they make sense and so that they're easy to find. So if you just search Phoenix Gaming, you should be able to find it fairly easily because I always try to put Phoenix Gaming on all my tournaments. Another thing, I have to secure the venue, but I'm doing my annual doubles this year. I am super thrilled that I've had two events that I've run ever since I started running events, and they are my doubles tournament. I've done one every year, and the Highlander tournament. I've done one every year. And every year, those two tournaments get some of my best turnouts, and I am super thrilled about that. So, December doubles, obviously that's 6-7 months down the road, but just to keep people in the loop, that is going to happen. I don't know if it's happening in Chesterton or Plymouth this year. I have to talk to both venues, and I'm going to be looking at doing another 2 to 3 events, and I'm going to be running a Sigmar event again this year. I had talked about doing it last year. I ran one, and then obviously the fire happened, and that really, turns out when your store burns down, it kind of puts a damper on what you get to do. So now that I'm back into it, I'm going to be starting to run Sigmar events again, just so we can build the communities. And that's all I'm here for. Is just building the community. And it also, again, not to just keep rambling. If you guys like the content, make sure you're sharing the videos. Let's get the subscribers up. I do have my giveaway. We didn't hit the goal, so I'm still gonna give it away, but I'm probably just gonna push the date back until I get back from vacation, just so I don't have to rush it out today. So thanks a lot for watching. Hope everybody had a great time. This will be the last time you probably hear from me for about 2 to 3 weeks because I'll be on vacation, and I look forward to coming back home and interacting with all of you again. Thanks.